And that sound means the start of another Missal for the Masses. My name is Gary, and with me is...
Casey from Podcasts from the Pit.
And this Missal, the 68th Missal for the Masses, we are going to be catching up on April 2024's Energon Universe offerings from Skybound, Entertainment, Image Comics, talking Void Rivals, number 8, Transformers, number 7, Cobra Commander, number 4, and Duke, number 5. And Casey, how you been?
I've been really good. How are you?
Doing pretty good. I've been a busy week here. Not doing too much with the old collection lately, but did manage to pick up a convention exclusive female Cobra Trooper from, I think it was like about 2008 ish. I think it was from the Tanks for the Memory set. So a guy posted on Facebook, and there's so few Cobra Troopers that are female. It's like, the Baroness needs somebody.
Yes. Now, is that an O-ring or modern style?
O-ring.
Gotcha. Some of those convention exclusives I'm not too clear on because I've only been back in Joe since like 19.
Yeah, so the O-ring exclusives ended in 2010.
Okay.
Before all the exclusives went to the modern 4-inch construction. So it was a good deal. It was something to add to my little display of my little Cobra Troopers up in my bedroom. Like I said, Baroness is a boss and she needs somebody to boss around.
There you go.
So anything new with you?
Picked up some old Motu today at Faraday Toys in Greenwood, Indiana. Got a good deal. It's a super nice place. The guys are great. It's a brother combo. They run it, and just, I don't know. You walk in, they make you feel like family. So it's cool. I like it.
A good shop with a good vibe. That's what brings people together. In our hobbies. So we're here to talk the Energon Universe. We'll lead off with Void Rivals number 8. And a quick rundown of this issue is Solila and Dalek, they finally fight Proximus, this new enemy for them. And it ends with Solila on a stick. And, and it looks like there's some kind of relationship between Proximus and Solila in the past. And really, that's all there is to it. It's a pretty simple issue, just about a big fight. And what did you think of it?
Yeah, I actually just read it. I enjoyed it. But like you say, sometimes Kirkman's writing it's kind of sparse. And he lets the pictures do the storytelling for him. I mean, that's how I feel sometimes. Yeah, looking at the backstory, I'm thinking that that's her brother that just put her on that spike.
Yeah. And so I forgot to mention it's Robert Kirkman is the writer. Lorenzo De Felici is the artist. And the colorist is Patricio Del Pesce with Russ Woot in the letter. And we kind of, correct me if I'm wrong, last month we kind of touched on it. But, we had a hard time remembering the characters' names in this book. And I think I figured out why. I really think it has something to do with the color direction.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, that's I'm still trying to figure out what's troubling me with this book, why it's not resonating as hard as I want it to. And, I think it's the colors. I think it's the colors aren't bright, contrasting enough so that every figure every character has their own identity. But I think the line work is great in the art. I think the layouts are good. It's, I think, like you said, Kirkman's writing is kind of sparse, and he expects the reader to remember from the previous issue, or he's expecting the reader to pick up a trade paperback. And this book just came off as average for me this month. It's not super strong for me. I read it, I enjoyed it, but it's like a nothing burger.
Right. But I mean, we're 8 issues deep now. I've enjoyed all 8. And something tells me it's going to be like, and I could be way off, But since they've already had Jetfire in here, I really think this is going to be the centerpiece of the Energon universe. And that's just me thinking that way.
Yeah, they don't play enough with the other properties. I know that this is something that they wanted to stand on its own,
Mm-hmm.
but I don't think it's doing a good job of standing on its own. The book is its most fun when it has been interacting with the Transformers or the Transformers characters.
Yeah.
So while I did appreciate this fight, it felt like an episode of Dragon Ball Z where they're powering up for the Kamehameha, Powerball for 19 out of the 22-minute episode. But
And,
there was more to it than that.
Yeah. My favorite character, if you can call it a character, is Handroid.
Oh yeah, Handroid is what would you say? It's snappy or
Yeah. Yeah, I really like it. It's a unique idea. I think it's pretty cool.
it's a solid book, but to me, compared to the other stuff, maybe it's just my experience with the other toy properties. This was just I'm trying to latch onto it.
Now, do you think they'll ever come out with toys for these figures?
Well, Void Rivals is copyright Hasbro.
Right.
So, I think eventually we might see something in the 6-inch scale for these characters. It's going to be further on down the line, though. I think
Right.
this is going to be something like a year or two before we ever see anything.
Yeah, I can see. I mean, I don't know, maybe because of sci-fi, but I can see them having like the Black Series construction kind of 6-inch.
Yeah, I'm still holding out for a 6-inch ROM, which I know they didn't get, which I know Skybound doesn't have the rights for right now.
Yeah.
They did, or they may, but they danced around it because I bought the Romnibus, a few months ago or when it came out, and that's ROM would fit so nicely in this universe.
He
But
really would. Yeah.
I'm a ROM fan, but I blame Twitter for that. But I think maybe we should move on to Transformers.
Yeah. The final thing on it, I enjoyed it, but it was definitely the weakest out of the four, in my opinion.
We're going to talk Transformers number 7 now. Daniel Warren Johnson, the writer, Jorge Corona, the artist, Mike Spicer, the colorist, Russ Wooten, the letterer. And the first thing that I liked about this issue, and it's in the plot, is they start in Cybertron. They're looking for Ultra Magnus. They're fighting. There's death, destruction, and then right when you get to the big cliffhanger where they actually do find Ultra Magnus, but it's kind of that thing where he's not all there, but he is.
Yeah.
They just on that reveal, they then pivot over to an aircraft carrier, and you see an aircraft carrier in one of these books. You're hoping it's the Flag,
Right.
but
Yeah.
it's
The
not.
first thing I said, I'm like, is that the Flag?
No, it's the USS Henry Harrison, and they get orders to turn and go towards the coast of Washington, to encounter the Autobots. So this is now the whole military is aware of these robots and is moving to intercept them. Then we get the battle between Soundwave and Starscream, which was, try not to do spoilers during the plot synopsis, but they fight. Soundwave wins, and then you get a little interstitial with the Autobots and Carly being all angry and stuff. They're talking about missing Ultra Magnus. You get a little follow-up where Spike wakes up from his coma, and then we get Optimus Prime ready to renew his fight against the Decepticons, closing out the issue. Casey, what's some takeaways from this issue?
Well, one big takeaway is, a few of my favorite characters do not make it through this issue, but that's to be expected, I guess. And I'm glad to see the art did not dive. I think this art is good too. I like it. It fits the story. I was a little worried changing artists.
Yeah, and that's something strong, I think, with Skybound right now. I know we're in the middle of May. We've seen some other art changes in some other Hasbro property books, but the art direction has been very consistent. So Jorge brings a very similar independent vibe
Mhm.
to the book. It's not quite the same as Daniel Warren Johnson, but it has that vibe. So while you notice it's different, it's not jarring. It doesn't.
Right. Yeah, it flows nicely.
Yeah, I thought my highlight of this was the fight between Starscream and Soundwave, and how Soundwave just took Starscream out. I mean, he's built for business in this book.
Yeah, it was a little rough for me since Starscream is like my favorite Transformer.
Yeah. When you read Starscream, do you hear Chris Latta's voice?
I do. Yes,
Oh,
I do.
absolutely awesome.
When I'm reading Cobra Commander, because the Cobra Commander from the cartoon is way different than any Cobra Commander in the comics. They're night and day.
Yeah, I don't know how to read Cobra Commander in that new book. I still hear Chris Latta again,
That's cool.
but I know if you listen to the Anything Joe's, and they just did that issue 17, and he changed up Cobra Commander's voice, and it just sounded strange hearing a different voice coming out for Cobra Commander. But we'll talk more about him when we get to his book.
Okay.
Um, I like how Carly's like a typical teenager. She's really moody and she's pissed off. She's got some real anger going on because she's her dad died,
Hmm.
and the characterization in this book. I think Daniel Warren Johnson has all these characters straight. They may be different characters, because he's a new writer and this is a new storytelling, but the characterization of like RC and Optimus and everybody in the book has been consistent. So it's things don't seem out of place. Like Soundwave is the biggest change,
Yes.
but it's more of he's a loyal Decepticon, and he's just at this point, he's just like he's had his fill of incompetency and loss. And he's not just Megatron's toady here. He's
Right.
like a real like, I learned from Megatron. We need to do this. We have objectives to change. So he has a little more logic going on. He reminds me a little bit of Shockwave
Yeah.
from the Marvel series here.
I really like how, like, the very beginning of this comic, the first 4 pages, well, they drop like 3 Autobots in 3 pages, and it's just brutal. But you'd expect that in a war.
Yeah, absolutely. And the other thing too is he's not playing safe with the characters
At all.
because unlike the Joe books, this one is I don't care if you have a toy or not. That's who it's a book of a toy property, not trying to sell you toys.
Yeah.
It's like he's approaching it from the angles like, I know you already have the toys. It's like, I know you already have this stuff. I know you're already a fan. So let's just play with our toys and see where it goes. I mean, I know tertiarily, if that's even a word, that the Transformers has a crap ton of characters like the GI Joe team does,
Hmm.
but he's not catering to like a Starscream toy or whatever. Bumblebee died in the first issue, for Pete's sake.
Yeah.
It's there hasn't been a Matrix moment till all are one resurrecting all these characters yet. Maybe that's the get out of jail free card for all these deaths.
I wonder if they have to get some kind of okay from Hasbro to kill off these characters. Because I think in the 80s they had to. Like G.I. Joe, they had to get an okay to kill off a character.
Oh yeah. Yeah, they're definitely running it by Hasbro. I think that's part of like the licensing agreement, because
Yeah,
Hasbro has to. I know Hasbro still oversees all their properties and media that they're being represented in. I don't know. It seems to be a very different company today than it was 40 years ago.
true.
Could just be the layoffs talking. But yeah, I mean, all this stuff is getting approved, and it's just weird, like I said earlier, that there's such a difference between how they're treating the characters in Transformers versus how they're treating the characters in the G.I. Joe Energon universe.
The whole fight with Soundwave and Starscream, I like how Starscream tried to talk his way out of it, and that didn't work.
Yeah, Soundwave had enough. He was pissed.
He ripped him to shreds.
Yeah, I really like this book. I really don't have much down to say about it, other than the fact that really, after reading the next issue, which we'll talk about next month, now rereading it, how much of a setup book it was.
Yeah.
And it didn't feel like a setup book while reading it. And I think that's a good show of strength by Daniel Warren Johnson, the writer. And like you said earlier, the art is still fantastic, and it still didn't
Yes.
miss a beat.
And I do want to add that Laserbeak did help Soundwave kill Starscream.
Yeah. Well, Starscream kicked his Ravage.
Yeah, I like that line.
Yeah, that was a good line. So, all right. Ready to move on to Cobra Commander?
Yep. But I just want to end up saying I was very impressed with that issue. Thoroughly enjoyed it.
Yeah. No, that was definitely a very strong book. If I was rating it, I'd say a 4 out of 5.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's very strong. I mean, it could even be like a 4.5 out of 5. I don't know. It was a really good read.
Now back to G.I. Joe.
But now we're at Cobra Commander number 4, written by Josh Williamson, Andrea Milana, and Annalise Leone, the colorist, and Russ Wooten, the letter. No, now we're in the G.I. Joe books. We'll talk a little bit about the covers. Cover A shows Nemesis Enforcer, or Nemesis Immortal. They haven't really named it. No, yeah, he's Nemesis Enforcer in the book. He's approaching Cobra Commander, who's hiding behind a tree.
Yep.
It's a good image. Did you get any of the variants for it,
I
Casey?
think I might have got one upstairs. The only one I have is cover A in front of me.
Okay. So, yeah, there was cover B with Cobra Commander, basically with his hands on Energon, and the camera's pointed up, so you see Cobra Commander, and then behind him is Nemesis Enforcer swooping down.
Okay, I don't think I have that one.
Okay, yeah, so that was cover B. I really like it. I think it's another strong image like cover A. It also helps that it's sort of like what's going to go on the book.
Yeah.
And then we have cover C, or the 1 in 10 exclusive, where it's Cobra Commander and Nemesis Enforcer fighting, and it looks like it's in Cobra Law, and the art is, very poppy, very strong colors, and it looks ethereal with heavy inks, but it's a good, I don't know, I like it. It's a good, strong image.
Oh yeah, it is nice.
And then the final cover, the 1 in 25, because the comic shop knows I'm a sucker for incentives, is Nemesis Enforcer on an explosion back.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah, the 1 in 25s, when I've gotten them, they're none of them disappoint. Yeah, and for this book, so cover B was by Andrea Bressan and Adriano Lucas. The 1 in 10 was Chris Burnham and Brian Reber, and the 1 in 25 was Torrin Clark. it's really hard for me to pick. But to me, I like 1B the best. I like the upshot. I like the direction, and it checks all my criteria for things I look forward in a cover. And it'd be really cool to have as a pinup or something.
Yeah.
And we open up in Cobra Commander number 4, following up with the destruction being caused by Nemesis Enforcer on the Dreadnoks.
Yeah.
And Cobra Commander goes down a hatch to find a doctor scientist. I didn't see a name mentioned
I didn't
yet.
either.
Yeah, and I did read this book, listeners. So Cobra Commander finally finds the Energon he's been looking for. And then the scene changes to where Nemesis Enforcer is still beating up on the Dreadnoks. The core Dreadnoks, the ones with the action figures, seem to be still alive. And then a little bit more dialogue between Cobra Commander and the scientist. And Cobra Commander shows his little insect robots getting powered by the Energon, and tells the scientist that he's going to go to Cobra Law.
Yeah.
He emerges from the bunker, the underground bunker, and that's when Nemesis Enforcer basically says, we don't need you, Cobra Commander, anymore. You're done. And then we get the kind of the fight of Cobra Commander versus Nemesis Enforcer, and it's pretty much one-sided, but it isn't.
Cobra Commander does better than I thought he would.
Yeah, it's really when one of the insects they combine to form an energy beam, like a hand droid, to shoot at Nemesis Enforcer, and then Cobra Commander joins up with Ripper, and Ripper tells them that they were going to sell the Energon to a bloke named Destro. Casey, your thoughts on this issue?
I thought it was very well paced. I love the art, even some of the mundane stuff with the scientist. I thought everything was really well done. I liked Cobra Commander's little spider or bugs. They look like spiders, electronic spiders. I think that's a pretty cool little accessory he has now.
I still maintain they look like a couple of the Insecticons.
You know what? They could be. This is Energon.
Yeah.
But when I was reading it for the first time, I did not really. I mean, maybe I'm just gullible, but I did not see the Nemesis Enforcer betraying him. I thought it would be the other way around.
I got to say that I'm not going to say it wasn't unexpected, but I was pleasantly surprised. Like, it made sense for the story.
Mm-hmm.
It made sense for events from the first 2 issues where Globulus really didn't trust Cobra Commander. And the book has been interesting, and the art's been wonderful. The art direction, the whole, the colors, the inks, everything has been gelled. It's just a beautiful book to read. It's been brutal at points, but we've had so many moments in the first 3 issues. It's almost a shame that there wasn't really a moment that grabbed me so much in this book as in the others, because the art's just been so strong. It's like, I don't mean it's been expected, but it's been consistently above average.
Yeah, I've really enjoyed it. And I still say this Cobra Commander is even more brutal than any other Cobra Commander I've ever seen.
Oh yeah, he's not a wimp. He's not a chump.
No.
I will admit, if you have to come up with things to be critical of, it's when Xandar and Zorana and a couple of the other Dreadnoks show up on an air skiff, or they escape on the air skiff. It was just like a traditional airboat from the Warlord Everglades. It wasn't Zanzibar's air skiff.
Right. That would have been cool.
Fun. That would have been just like such an oddball Easter egg because they've been doing the oddball stuff. Overall, the beginning of the face-off, the turn of Nemesis Enforcer going against Cobra Commander, the pacing is perfect. I can't say enough good things about the art, but like I said, I'm looking for a moment that really like stands out inside the book, and there really isn't like one panel, like or one sequence that just and I don't know if it's because I expect it or
I don't know. I
there's
really enjoyed the fight between Cobra Commander and Nemesis Enforcer.
yeah, and it's just funny. Like there's a good shot where Nemesis Enforcer grabs Buzzer,
yeah,
and breaks his arm, like that opening shot with him and with the sun in the background. But again, it's just a solid book, but it just ends differently. It's a different pace than the other books, which is a good thing. I must admit, I don't want to say it's worse than the other books. It's just that it's just a different pace, but there's a ton of action in it, which I like in a comic book. It's not all talking heads.
Now, page 3, one frame. It's a small frame, but all those just slaughtered dreadnoks. Now we see what we were reading all the little sounds for last issue.
Yeah.
And it's some carnage there.
Yeah, like I said, it's just like sometimes it's just like it's a good book. It's super solid.
Yeah.
Would you rate this book something? And if we were rating books today,
I would be in the 4s. I really liked it. I don't think it was the best issue of Cobra Commander, but it was really good.
I'm with you on that. I'd say I'd be in the 4s as well. It's a solid 4.
Yeah.
It's nothing less than a 4, but I don't know if I could say 4 1/4 because the other 3 issues before it are just so strong.
And we still got one more, right?
Yeah, one more to go. Cobra Commander meeting Destro.
That'll be something.
Yeah, we're getting ready to start Codename G.I. Joe. You have Scarlet, and then you have Destro all coming out very shortly. So we'll be talking about those in the future, folks.
Some point you should talk about the Free Comic Book Day, Energon.
Well, that would be in the May 2024 roundup, which will be recorded in June.
Okay. Because that was really good.
I'm keeping a schedule now.
All right.
Do you know how hard it's been for me to keep a schedule on this podcast?
On ours, we don't really schedule.
I'm trying to change. It was a New Year's resolution.
You're doing fine.
Yeah. I haven't lost weight yet either, so.
Yeah.
Let's move on to Duke number 5, the final issue in the Duke miniseries. I managed to pick up the 4 covers again. I'll talk about them. And we get issue cover number A, the Tom Riley cover with basically you get Duke, with a trench knife in his left hand. He's facing off into the camera, and the camera is shot through the left claw hand of a battle android trooper, all inked in black. It does have some, if you look at it right in the light, that you can see some line work. So it's a very, 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 very dark gray in shadow. It has a very simple red background. Do you have any thoughts on this cover, Casey?
It's good. It's not one of my favorites.
I'm going to say it's a striking image, but it looks like what Marvel used to do back in the 80s, where if there wasn't a cover, they would find a panel and then they would blow it up. So it's not heavily rendered, but it's a good cover.
Yep.
Cover B by Mateus Santoluco is the battle android trooper coming out of a glowing vat facing Duke.
I like that one.
It's a much more house Marvel style, I would say. Fine line work, fine gradient, shadow work, and it's a solid cover. The bat's in the foreground coming out of the vat. He has his flamethrower attachment on his left hand, and Duke has an assault rifle, almost pointed at him, getting ready to, like, what the heck's going on? Expression on his face. Then we have the 1 in 10 connecting variant cover by Tyler Boss and Jason Wordy. And it's Duke in a jetpack flying away from a helicopter that's caught on fire. So I think it's safe to assume that it's a Cobra helicopter. And it looks kind of like a dragonfly. And you can kind of see Destro holding a briefcase out of the cockpit, which looks like that would violate several FAA regulations.
Yes.
So it has more cartoony vibe feel to it. Still a good image. And then finally, the 1 in 25 variant is the Cobra bat on an explosion back.
Yeah, I like that one too.
Yeah, and that's by Brian Level. I gotta admit, I was totally a sucker for all these explosion back incentives.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm super happy I got them. I get mine at my local comic shop, Boom Tube Comics. Go there on Wednesdays, try to get the incentives if they're still there when I get there after work. And these have been just gorgeous covers. All right. Any thoughts on your favorite cover for Duke number 5, Casey?
I like that explosion cover. I'm a big fan of those too. I don't have any yet, but I might have to get some.
Yeah,
like
pick some up at Joe Fest. I'm sure some vendor will have them. I'm going to have to say, I think the 1 in 25 is the best cover of the bunch for this book because it actually describes something that happens in the book. It's the bat. Yeah, and the bat has his backpack and he's got the flamethrower on his right hand. It's just, it's beautiful. But the bat was a work of art in 1986. So,
yeah, love the bat.
The big thing with Duke number 5 in the plot is it's Duke versus the bat. Mm-hmm. And we all know at this point, but in 5 issues, Duke has been through absolute hell. How is he going to fare against the bat? Well, we kind of open up with Hawk asking Clutch where Duke went. And then we find out when we turn the page that Duke's being choked by the claw of the bat. And then really for no reason other than the fact that I think Destro thinks he's toying with him, he turns off the bat.
Yeah.
And it's like, hey, Duke, maybe you want to come work for me. And Duke's like, no way. But Duke's also still of the assumption that Destro built Starscream.
Right. Yeah.
And if you've been following along in this podcast, folks, you'll know that Starscream's dead. So how is Duke going to get his revenge? Because Casey would love to see Starscream take out Duke.
Oh, Hillbilly's a Duke hater. I like Duke.
Well, 2 of your favorites are fighting. Who do you root for?
Right. In that case, you got to go Joe.
Okay. There you have it. Made you choose. But yeah, so then it becomes Duke versus Destro. Destro's like, yeah, I'm not having any of this. And he turns the bat back on. And then it's almost like Duke has gotten a second wind at this point. And, we get the fight and Duke is just wailing on the bat. At one point, Duke rips off the bat's head and starts beating it, using it as a flail and beating the bat with it, deriving his strength from that memory of his friend getting killed by Starscream.
Yeah, he's not doing a very good job trying to hit that bat.
Well, he gets it pretty good. He finally destroys the bat, puts the head through the chest piece. And at the very end, we see Scrap Iron blow up the base.
Yeah.
You see the Scrap Iron and Destro and Mercer escaping a stinger, which, if they've come out with the vamp, that must mean the stinger's not far behind, folks, because
Oh,
this
yeah.
book is designed to sell toys. And then we get a little news report, summing up the issues about Major Blood and Duke's allegedly dead. But then we turn the page and then Duke was just in a coma. I am never going to not do that joke. I swear to gosh. But anyway, we got CoverGirl and Hawk visiting Duke. Duke's now, off the books. He's listed as KIA. And, Hawk says, hey, we're reviving the pit as our new base of operations. And then eventually, they form the original, this newest Joe team with 4 of the original members. I do like that. Duke, Clutch, Rock and Roll, and Stalker. And I will strike that from the record because Duke wasn't an original member. But they're united in fighting the Transformers. And who do they see on the tablet? It's Optimus Prime, which is kind of a neat way to end the book.
Yeah.
And to end the series.
To me, it kind of just wrapped up too quick, but maybe that's because I didn't want it to end. I really enjoyed the Duke series. I loved putting Major Blood in it the way they did, like his Bloodhounds. Baroness was cool. Using Mercer so early, I thought that was pretty cool because my partner, Hillbilly, that's his favorite character. So maybe they'll come out with that classified Mercer now.
Yeah, I really think this book has done a very good job highlighting characters from the G.I. Joe universe, using them effectively. I'm going to echo your sentiment. I think you're right. This book did wrap up a little too quickly. I think a little too neatly. There's no reason why Duke should have survived Scrap Iron's blast. Some people would say that's plot armor. Some people would say it's to sell toys. And it's like not like to keep having a theme this month, but this is also, I think, the weakest Duke issue of
I think
the
so
5.
too. Yeah.
It's a fun issue.
It had some strong parts. It really did.
Right.
But overall, it was the weakest one out of the 5.
The art was competent. I'm never going to complain about the art in this book. I think Tom Riley and Jordi Belair, did a fantastic job with art duties. I think Josh Williamson just was got to a point where he was like, I got to wrap this up. And it's almost like when you film a 2-hour movie, but then you get told you got to cut it to 90 minutes.
Yeah.
So he had to a couple panels or a page explaining how Duke survived the blast somehow could have, I think, helped. Instead of him just waking up in the hospital, you end with the blast, you have a panel of the Cobras escaping, you follow up with the news cycle, and then you turn the page, and then you see the rescue effort by the Joe team to rescue Duke, and what happened, and then bring you to the wake up in the hospital. I think that would have maybe padded the issue, but have prevented such a sudden jump or a jerk in the storytelling.
Yeah. I mean, other than the ending, and I know what they were trying to do there, get the team started. But my biggest beef with the whole thing is just, like you just said, it was just too quick of an ending.
Yeah. Point out something I really enjoyed on the first page when Hawk is trying to interrogate Clutch in the third panel. When you see his eye, it's like his eye's right twitching, his left eye, and he's he's just got that frustrated dad face, he's like, what the heck are you saying? He's like, "Urgh." So frustrated.
I'm liking Clutch's character in this. I wasn't the biggest fan of Destro's outfit.
You don't like Businessman Destro?
I mean, I like Businessman Destro, but this is, I don't know. It's just, I guess, care for the color choice.
All right. All right. Now hold on. So there's a panel where he's pulling like something out of his inner jacket pocket. It's right after Duke headbutts him,
Uh-huh.
and Duke is like, "Oh, you see the big welt on his forehead,"
Yeah.
and he opens up his red jacket, and he's got the leopard print silk lining on the
Yeah.
inside. That is such a subtle, subtle nod.
Yeah.
You might not like his outfit, but I love it. I'm also going to say that if there's ever a storyteller that's going to use Prophet Director Destro, when we all know that's really because its real name is Pimp Daddy Destro, this Josh Williamson is going to do it, and I'm rooting for Josh Williamson or another writer to fit that guy in.
Maybe I just missed the fur.
Yeah, you're a fan of the fur. This was a fun read. A
Mhm.
lot of action. Like you said, it is or we both agreed on, it is the weakest of the 5, but it's still a good read. It's a decent conclusion to a story, but it's not really the conclusion. It's really the lead into Codename G.I. Joe, which is coming out eventually.
Right.
And normally I would read previews, but I've given up that because I don't want to get spoiled. I like
I
going to
read
the
them.
comic shop.
I read the previews.
Have they said when Codename G.I. Joe's coming out?
Uh-uh.
Okay, good. So I'm not wrong.
They've only talked about Scarlet and Destro.
That's right. Yeah. So where do you place Duke? We're going to rate it anyway. Okay, so rate it out of 5. What do you think?
3.5. Now, as a whole for this all 5 series, it would be 4.75. I really enjoyed Duke. I thought it was a great series. And maybe part of my issue with the ending is I just was not ready for it to end.
Yeah. Okay. So as an individual issue, I would say a 3.5. I'd be similar to you. And the series as a whole, I'd be a little bit lower than you. I'd say 4.5.
Yeah.
I think the ending should have just been, I would have tried to barter with, Kirkman and Skybound to like, can I just get 2 pages more into the book?
Yeah.
Wow, that was pretty fast read through of April's Skybound Energon universe, Casey.
Yeah. Well, like I said, they're all good reads. They're all, to me, they're fast reads. But I always try to go back and read them again, slower. I'm so excited when I first get them. I just burn through it.
Yeah, absolutely. These books are must reads for me. All the Energon universe, all A Real American Hero. Those were all, Wednesday reads for me. I like the fact that every book has a letters page. I have yet to write into one, but I really want to because, I record this for everybody to hear my opinions.
Yeah.
But, I know Skybound ain't listening to my little podcast, but, they should, just let them know what's up. And at least, if anything, even if it doesn't get published, they got they know they got a fanboy.
Yeah. And you probably want to edit this out, but I just got hit with, I love Valiant Comics, and they just rebooted Valiant Comics. So I've got so many of those I got to read now. So my trips to the comic book store are getting more expensive.
Yeah, there's only a few books I read when they come out, and a lot of them are Image, and their publication schedules are just so screwed up. They take hiatuses, and the hiatuses are, they turn indefinite now. So it's hard to remember where I left off if I'm not reading them as soon as they come out.
Yeah.
But they're good books. I do like the editorial work that Skybound does, their creative control. All the books have been good quality books. Nothing's felt like a waste of $4.
Right. Now, which are you looking more forward to, Scarlet or Destro?
That's a good question. Mostly I'm looking forward to Scarlet because she's only had ever had the one shot from Devil's Due era, which had gorgeous, gorgeous art. Yeah, it had that cover by Phil Noto. And I'm really excited to see Kelly Thompson write Scarlet, just because it'll be a female voice. And Kelly Thompson did an amazing job with Black Widow a couple years ago. So I am looking forward to that Scarlet, just because I know the quality that's going to be behind it.
I'm looking forward to seeing what characters show up in these books, because there were some surprises in these. I can't wait to see the surprises in Scarlet and Destro.
I hate to say this, but just look at your classified collection or look at the classified releases, and I think we're pretty close on seeing who's going to be in the book. I would like to see more characters that haven't been featured in classified form. To me, those are going to be the true surprises.
Right. Like Mercer. I was shocked to see him because Hasbro wants to push their toys, which I understand. I mean, it's business. I get that. But it was really nice to see. And it was a different take on him. He's like huge.
Yeah. I like it when they pull deep cuts and they create stories using them effectively. There's an old saying, sometimes all a character needs is a good story.
Yeah.
For people to love them. And it's not that they're a bad character. They just haven't had the right story that included them or featured them. And Mercer's definitely that. I can't recall another, nope. Devil's Due featured Mercer a little bit. But other than that, he hasn't really been in comic books much in the last 18, 19 years.
Right.
That's a deep cut.
Yeah. And to my knowledge, he never worked for Destro back 18, 19 years ago. So that was even bigger surprise.
Yeah, he was just a lowly Cobra Viper.
Yeah. Lots of twists and turns, and I truly believe that Skybound will keep them coming.
That has been this 68th Missal for the Masses, and this has been a special Missal for the Masses because this will be published on the 3rd anniversary of the Chaplain Sisters Motor Pod. So, Casey, Thank you for joining me.
Happy anniversary.
Thank you, sir. And why don't you give out your details to all the fine folks out there so they can find you?
Casey, Podcast from the Pit. We are on YouTube and Instagram, X or Twitter, whatever you call it. We just put out a Facebook group too, Podcast from the Pit. So,
and I joined right away.
Appreciate that. Feel free to post whatever you want. But, we've met so many nice people doing this, and it's just a way to keep in touch with everybody. If you would, please check us out.
Yeah, you're doing a great job. I support your channel when I can, and, I look forward to, kibitzing with the rest on the Facebook group. So, once again, I'm Gary. This has been the Chaplain Sisters Motor Pod. Thank you to Spotify for Podcasters, our host. For more Chaplain Sisters Motor Pod, you can find me on Twitter, Instagram, X, Facebook at Chaplain Joe Pod. And if you want to email me, it's chaplainjoepod@gmail.com. The Chaplain Sisters Motor Pod is the strange, but not estranged, nerdy little brother of The Pint, a pop culture podcast. And with all of that out of the way, one final missile for the masses. Be decent to each other.
Bye, everybody.
Have a good night.